here. Where's Larry Geller when you need him? I've seen a couple of very good Elvis YouTube videos looking at his Sun records recently, and it got me wondering, what's the best collection of Sun recordings on LP? And that's what we're going to be exploring in today's video. I'll show you the copies that I have and the differences in sound that I noticed when comparing them. Now, the situation with the master recordings, the Sun master recordings, is quite complicated. Probably some of you will know better than I do, but as I understand it, RCA didn't receive all the master recordings. Some of them were lost or erased. And what they did with some of the recordings is they added their own echo. Now, of course, Sam Phillips had his own slapback echo on most of the recordings, but RCA added some additional echo. And I'm not talking about electronically reprocessed stereo. It was still mono, but with additional echo. But anyway, I'm going to be focusing on certain songs, the songs which I noticed the biggest differences in as we go through. So the earliest copy that I have, or the earliest Sun collection that I have, is the UK pressing. And this is one of the first ones. It's on the RCA Starcore label, but it's not the very first one because it has the sleeve notes on the back instead of advertisements for other albums. And it has this green label, just as RCA actually, not RCA Starcore. And the copy that I had growing up when I was a teenager in the 80s was very similar to this one, except it had an orange label, so it would have come slightly after this version here. And I was perfectly happy listening to those recordings growing up. I had no problem with them at all, and I still really don't have any problem with them either, but there are better options out there. And we'll come back to this one as we compare it with the second version, which is the Japanese version. So the Japanese version came out in early 1976, and as usual it came with an obi, and you can see that it actually uses the UK cover art, not the US one, which is quite unusual. And when there were differences, they tended to use the American artwork. The back cover comes with the sleeve notes, and this one is actually on the orange RCA label, and it does also come with this rather splendid booklet which has Japanese liner notes. It actually incorrectly credits DJ Fontana with playing the drums, and essays, a lot of photographs in the middle there with captions as well. More essays, song by song notes, and at the back it has the lyrics to the songs in English. So far so good. Alright, so what are some of the differences in sound between that one and the UK version? Well, I was actually expecting them to be the same, but they weren't. So if we start with That's Alright, That's Alright in both cases has RCA echo on it, so they sound basically the same. With Good Rockin' Tonight, however, the UK version has the RCA echo on it, but the Japanese version has a dry version of Good Rockin' Tonight. There's a little bit of that slapback echo that Sam Phillips put on there, but it doesn't have the RCA echo. So that's a plus point for the Japanese version. Baby Let's Play House, there's more echo on the UK version than on the Japanese version. But otherwise they're all pretty much the same except one song. Major difference in one particular song, and that is Milk Cow Blues Boogie. So the UK pressing has a nice quiet version of Milk Cow Blues Boogie, but the Japanese version has this awful noise that you can hear at the beginning, like hissing noise, and it's actually almost as loud as the vocal. It's very, very distracting, and that got me thinking that the Japanese version is probably taken from the American master recording. Now, I don't have an American copy, so if you do, please let me know if I'm correct about this. But the reason why I think so is because the stereo pressings of A Date with Elvis, Japanese and American, also have that horrible noise at the beginning of Milk Cow Blues Boogie. So that's a real disappointment. So comparing the two, I'll probably say that the UK one is slightly better because of the better version of Milk Cow Blues Boogie. That's a real minus point for the Japanese version. The next version I have is a German pressing from the early 1980s, I believe. And it has this black label design here. Now this one is completely different from the first two. That's Alright, for example, is completely dry on this version. It has no added RCA echo, and I understand that Sam Phillips recorded that without any echo, without any slapback on it. So as far as I can tell, that's the closest that I have so far to an original Sun record. And going all the way down through the other tracks which I compared, or which I noticed big differences in, this German pressing comes out top every time. It has a nice dry version of Good Rockin' Tonight. It's a quiet version of Milk Cow Blues Boogie. And one difference on this album, which is noticeable compared to the first two, is You're a Heartbreaker. So on the Japanese version and the UK version, You're a Heartbreaker is just smothered with echo. But on the German version, it's really dry. It sounds way better than the other two pressings. And I'm Left, You're Right, She's Gone also. It has a lot of echo on the Japanese and UK versions, but on this German version, it sounds really good. So if you only had this version here, the German version from the early 1980s, more than adequate in my opinion. It sounds really, really good. Right about the same time as that German album, this 10-inch French LP came out. It's a reshoot, and it contains 8 of the 10 Sun single sides. So it doesn't have Mystery Train or I Forgot to Remember to Forget. I'm just mentioning this really just in case you were interested in getting this for the sound quality. And the record itself is pressed with these great looking yellow labels, just like the old French records. So the only thing of note here is most of the songs do have that RCA echo on them. I noticed that I Don't Care If the Sun Don't Shine is the bassiest version that I've heard so far. And Milk Cow Blues Boogie is quiet. It doesn't have any of that nasty hissing in the background. So overall, a nice thing to have, but not essential by any means. One thing I haven't really mentioned so far is the running order of the songs on these albums. Now obviously the Sun Collection LPs that we looked at there, they all have the same running order, with the 10 Sun single masters coming first and then the Sam Phillips rejects coming after that. The German copy actually has Harbour Lights at the end as well, whereas the UK and Japanese versions don't have. And in 1987 they reissued the album again, but this time with more music on, a double album, and it was this one here, the Complete Sun Sessions. This is a Japanese copy, but the songs are exactly the same as the American version. And the running order is basically the same as the previous albums. It follows the same format, starting with the 10 Sun single sides, and then it goes into the rejects, and then finally on the second disc you have the outtakes here. But again, I'm basically focusing on the famous Sun songs here, because this album has music which the other ones don't have. And this one came in this nice gatefold sleeve. Again, it's not really any different to the American version. As far as the music goes, this Japanese one from 1987 is even better than the German one from the early 80s, and I assume that the American pressing is going to be basically the same as this one. So this one has the best version of Blue Moon of Kentucky that I've heard so far. The only downside is that Good Rockin' Tonight. Good Rockin' Tonight, for some reason, it's got the echo on here again, the RCA echo. Milk Cow Blues Boogie is nice and quiet. You're a Heartbreaker is dry again. I'm Left, You're Right, She's Gone is a nice dry version. It's the best version so far. And Mystery Train also stood out for me as well on this album. And one thing I noticed with Mystery Train on this album, as I mentioned, the Sun singles come first. So just as on the Sun Collection, Mystery Train and I Forgot to Remember to Forget come at the beginning of side 2. And what they did on this Japanese version is they actually used up more groove space for the first 2 songs. You can see it by looking at the record that the songs that come after those 2, they're kind of squashed up. They're all around about the same length of time, of course, but they've actually given more groove space to those 2 songs, the more famous songs, and they do sound actually very, very good. Now, just a few years ago, back in 2017, probably most of you have got one form of this release or another. They released this one here, A Boy From Tupelo. Now this is all remastered and redone and whatnot, one of these spiffy newfangled versions. And it has to be said that this one is actually even better than the 1987 Japanese digital remaster. And the reason why I say that is because the songs all sound like they were recorded at the same studio. there's no great variation in sound. The sound is very consistent across the albums, and there's none of that RCA echo on here as well. And it came with this nice inner sleeve, continuing the pink theme. And it also has the Sun label here with the RCA logo as well. To go back to the back cover there, the running order is again the same, basically the same as the previous albums, and there's slight variations. Sometimes they will put Good Rockin' Tonight before I Don't Care If the Sun Don't Shine, and so on. But basically it's the same idea. The 10 Sun single sides come first. Believe it or not, the Boy From Tupelo album is not actually my favourite. The best one, in my opinion, is this one here, Elvis At Sun. And this one came out in 2004 along with the CD. It has 19 tracks on here. It also has When It Rains It Really Pours, which you don't get with the Boy From Tupelo album. That's not the reason why I prefer this one, by the way. The sound quality is pretty much the same as the one on A Boy From Tupelo. This is the one where they really went to town on improving the sound quality of these recordings. So I guess that when it came to A Boy From Tupelo, there really wasn't much else they could do. But apparently they did mess around with it again for A Boy From Tupelo, and I can't really hear any major differences in sound quality. They're both absolutely superb. The standout track for me with this album and also A Boy From Tupelo is I'm Left, You're Right, She's Gone. When it first came through my speakers when I was listening to this album, it was just like listening to a recording that had been made yesterday. It actually sounds like true stereo. The drums on that recording are absolutely outstanding, and you can also really hear Elvis's guitar, the acoustic guitar, twanging away there in the background. The main reason I like this one more than A Boy From Tupelo is the running order. As I say, the sound quality is pretty much the same, but the running order is completely different on this album. It actually starts at the start with Harbour Lights and I Love You Because, and then it goes into That's Alright and Blue Moon of Kentucky. So you've probably all heard the story of how they were struggling with these ballads, searching for something in the studio before Bill Black started clowning around on That's Alright, and Elvis and Scotty Moore joined in, and the rest is history. But when you hear the songs in their correct order, as you can on this album, you really do get a sense of being there at the start. You can really hear that Elvis was a singer searching for a song, and even Scotty Moore is kind of fumbling around at the beginning. He kind of plays too many notes on those early ballads. It's only later that he gets into his stride, that he gets into the swing of it as well. So you do get the first single there, That's Alright and Blue Moon of Kentucky, coming in where they should come in as the third and fourth songs that Elvis recorded professionally at Sun. But then it goes back to the ballads. You've got Blue Moon, Tomorrow Night, I'll Never Let You Go, and Just Because. And again, you know, you're back there struggling with the guys, and it does make you wonder, what were they thinking? Why didn't Sam Phillips or why didn't someone in the group say, well, you know, we've done it once, why don't we look for some more rock songs or some more up-tempo country songs? Why they went back to the ballads is kind of a mystery. But that's what they did, and at the end of side one, you get Good Rockin' Tonight and I Don't Care If the Sun Don't Shine. So unusually, at the end of side one, you've only heard 4 of the original 10 Sun sides. Now, when you get into side 2, they really start to get into the swing of it, because most of the songs on side 2 are songs which came out on singles, and of course Trying to Get to You, which probably would have been the 6th Sun single had there been one. There is one area in which this album tops the Elvis At Sun album, and that is it has more detailed liner notes and it has more technical information on the inner sleeve. The Elvis At Sun album just has a paragraph here from Knox Phillips, Sam Phillips' son, and it has composer and publishing credits underneath the songs, but it doesn't give you any recording information. I had a lot of fun comparing all those different albums, and I was surprised at all the differences that I heard, even differences between, as I said before, the UK version and the Japanese version. There are 4 that I would heartily recommend. Probably anyone is okay. The German version from the early 80s, the Japanese double album from 87, although I'm sure the American version is just as good, and of course A Boy From Tupelo, or best of all, if you can find it, Elvis At Sun. In fact, I recommend both Elvis At Sun and Boy From Tupelo. Then you can hear one in context, as it were, with the songs in the correct running order, and a Boy From Tupelo, you can hear the songs with the hits coming first and then the rejects at the end. Well, that's it for today. If anybody has a full collection of mint condition original 1954-55 Sun records for sale for about $100 each, just get in touch. Thanks for watching. Take care. Cheers.